This side is fine. Maybe you, let's see. Yeah, just a little bit. And on the back. There you go. So as I say in the other stream, you can remove this type of intersection using push away from surface. The problem with push away from surface is that it will recompute at every frame, and especially if your character is animated, that I guess it will be, it will decrease performance quite a bit. It will have to find the intersection at each frame and make the hair and generate the hair collisions at each frame. So if you have 1-2 million hairs, it will get quite heavy. So what I suggest instead is removing the intersections manually, as I'm doing right now. It will take a bit of time, but it will be worth it. We also have a little bit of intersection here. What is happening? Oh, it's just the selection. So let's go back to the guides and try to push these guys. There you go. Fix it. So it takes some time to do it like this manually, but it's worth it because you don't get the performance penalty of using push away from surface, at least in this case. You can also go inside the mesh like this and see where the hair is intersecting, and then find the guy that is making it intersect. Like we can see some intersections in this area here, so we can just go into guide mode and select the guide over here and go back outside and move it a little bit, go inside again. There you go. Yeah, much better. And so on. Do it like this, do it from inside like this as well. Maybe not. Like this, and you remove the intersection. That easy. It's that simple. I'm I am not saying that you shall not use push away from surface. You might need to use it in different cases. Another thing you can do is use it and then collapse the whole stack, so it will not have the need to recompute the collisions at each frame. So when you are done with your groom, you create your whole groom, right? And then you add push away from surface to remove these intersections. And then as you are done with the groom, you just collapse the stack, and it will collapse the whole stack in a single baked hair node, and it will be a lot faster than all this, basically. Okay, so this is what we have. Let's see if I can fix this weird flow here. Yeah, maybe this guide should float to the top like this, exactly. And we also get a nice parting here for free. So there you go. Let me play with this one as well. Maybe it should go like this. So yeah, much better. This side is fine. Mm, okay, let's go with that for now. Just a little bit more work here. Let's see. Maybe this guy should go like this. Indeed, yeah, looks better this way. Just let me improve the flow a little bit here to make it blend. What about you? Like this. That's better. Okay, let's increase the hair count So as I was saying in the last stream, the hair count, once we start using a multiplier map. Wait a second, let me lower the volume of this. So once we start using a multiplier map, the hair count is not very accurate anymore. So here, this is not the actual hair count, but is you can see it more like a density value instead. So we don't actually have this amount of hair. To see exactly how much hair we have, you can add on top, you can add an edit guides node. And by default here, it will show you the number of selected strands. And you see here we have 36,000. So we can go a lot higher on this, maybe 200,000 guides, I mean strands. Yeah, that density is better. I want to try it with a lower with shorter hairs on the level 3 fade here. So let's try 60%, just for fun. And reload the map. Yeah, I like that more. I like that more. But I have to improve the line here. Um, yeah, 60% is better. Let me save and let's see how we can improve this line here. And let me use blur. No, that's too much. Maybe down here like this. No, let's try without the blurring first. Yeah, that's better. Okay, let's see how much hair we have now. We can go higher. Let's double it. Let's give it a few seconds. There you go. How much we have now? Yeah, that's fine. We can now delete edit guides, and I'm going to delete push away from surface too. I'm not using it anymore. And I'm going to save another version of the scene. Let's play with the width a little bit, maybe less. Yeah, it's better. Okay, let's add some clumping now. So on top of the length, I'm going to use clump node. By default, it will create one clump, so we can just go and delete clumps here. And by default, it also have some fly away hair, so I'm going to set this to 0 for now. And I'm going to first try to generate clumps by guide. We saw this in my other streams. So clumping by guides will generate one clump for each guide. So if we have one guide, we get one clump. So we select guide clumps and click generate clumps, and as you can see, we have one clump for one guide. So this is not obviously what we want, and let me show you what the flyaway fraction does. So by default, this one is set to 0.1, and if we increase the flyaway fraction, you can see how some hairs are uh, detaching from the clump. So you can like of randomize the clump this way, and the amount will define how closer these flyaway hairs are to the to to the clumps. You can see how they get closer and closer until when you set it to 1, now the fly away hairs are part of the clump, and you can use that to add some randomization to the hair, but I mean to the clumps, but I prefer to add this type of fly away hairs using a freeze node. So I'm going to set this to 0. So the same with freeze. Shorter hairs should have less clumps than longer hairs. So we are going to use the length map into the clump amount multiplier here. First, I'm going to check preserve strand length because by default, the clump node will stretch the hairs to make it all go together in one clump. As you can see here, the shorter clumps are getting stretched. So first I'm going to check this option, preserve strand length. And now the strand length is preserved. And I am also going to check attach to closest stem. So it will attach each strand to the closest clump guide, like this, and we have the clumps looks a little bit better. Right now they look like leaves. If that's what you want, there you go. But we don't want that right now, so we have those two options. And we have here the, let me make this bigger. We have here the amount value. This will determine the clumping amount. 0, no clump, 1, clump. And this value is controlled by this amount multiplier. So this does nothing if you don't have a map connected to it. So let's try first connecting the fading map that we used in the length node connected to the clumping amount, because we want less clumping on the shorter hairs, right? So let's go find that map and connect it to the clumping amount. Where are you? Fade map. Fade map. There you go, and click and drag. And there you go. Let me break the connection so you can see. Click and drag and connect it. So they have less clumps. In this case, maybe it will be better to have to paint a new map for the clumping, because as you can see, there is still some clumping in areas when where we don't want clumps. What we can do is go here to the fade map and paint more black here, make the level 3 darker, and but that will be more work and more maps. And maybe we will share this room and there will be a lot of maps, and we have 2 maps already. Well, we have 3 maps already, so let's try to reduce the amount of map that we use, and in this case I'm going to use strand channels instead. So the same method that I used before with the generated strand data, I'm going to use it here to reduce the amount of clumping in these shorter areas. So just go ahead and add the generated strand data node and generate target data, generate a new channel. Let's call this clump amount, and channel type, it will be a per strand channel, and generation method will be a strand length, because we want less clump. We want the clumping amount to be driven by the hair length, by the strand length. So that's it. You just go to, wait, one important detail. This channel is being generated on top of the clump node. So the clump node will not have access to it. As you can see, it's not here. We can see it here. So it's important to know that it goes from top to from bottom to top. The data generated on the bottom is passed to the top. So now if we put the clump node on top of the generated strand data node, now we can see well, we may have to go back and forth to update there you go. So in the amount channel, you can see the clump amount channel that we created in the generated strand data. So just click it and there you go. Before and after. But there is still some clumping here. There are still some lines, but this clump is too strong anyway. So let's just reduce the clump like this. It's too much anyway. Maybe like this, yes. So we don't have any clumping here in these short hairs. and we have the amount of clumping that we want in the on the top, right? So we can now create some clumping for or some sub clumping, for example. But first, let's experiment with freeze. I'm going to add a freeze node and do the same. I'm going to, in the amount, I'm going to use the clump amount because it's the same, it's based on the length, and reduce this as much as I can. And to have more control over it, we can also add the um, the fade map. We we can use both at the same time, channels and maps. So fade map, yes, very good. So I like to use one freeze node first without any outlier hairs and without any scales, just to add a bit of volume to the hair like this. You see? Just to add volume like this. And to break out the clumps a little bit like this. Just a little bit. Now I'm going back to the clump node. I'm going to call this maybe big clumps, and I'm going to find the subclumping section here, subclumping section, and turn on add clump index channel. This will generate a new channel based on the clump index. So this will allow us to create sub clumpings, to take one big clump and break it down in smaller clumps. For that we need we need some data that store the current clumping values. So this is why we turn on this option. Just turn this option on just in case I'm going to regenerate the clumps here. Create clumps just to just to make sure, just for peace of mind. So the freeze node is already breaking the clumps a little bit. So I'm going to add another clump node on top of the freeze. And again, delete clumps. So we are back to default, and I'm going to call this small clumps. But now we go to the subclumping section again, and in region channel, we pick the clump IDs channel. This clump IDs channel is generated by the big clumps node here. When we check this option, this clump ID channel, well, it will store the clump ID of each clump. So we now have a channel that store the the channel values of the previous clump node. Now we can take a big clump and break it into a smaller clump. So just go to region channel and pick this clumps ID. Okay, so instead of creating clump guides, because it will just create one big clump for each guide, we are going to use random clumps to break down the big clumps into a smaller clump. So you just in clump count here, you just pick the number of clumps that you want. I'm going to set it to, I don't know, 500 to start, and click generate and click create clumps. Again, we have to pick our clump amount, our clump amount channel here, and also sorry, and also I'm going to connect the fade map here, and maybe this amount of clump is too few. Let's increase it a bit more. As you can see, the big clumps are being breaking down into smaller ones. Maybe more clumps. There you go. That looks better. Still, the hair looks like wet hair. So I'm going to just decrease the amount a little bit, maybe 0.8, and increase the fraction, the flyaway fraction here, to separate it a little bit, maybe like this. Yeah, we have some nice clumps here. Maybe more, so they are smaller. The more clumps we have, the smaller they will be. Okay, and let me increase the flyaway fraction a bit more. And compare. Save. And now I want to add another freeze node to break these smaller clumps a little bit more. So same process. I'm going to pick the amount, the clump amount channel here, and also connect the map for extra control. Where is it? Fade map. Connect the fade map. Okay, so I use the first freeze node to add volume. So I'm going to use this one instead to add outlier hairs, to add more fly away hairs and some scale, like to add some noise to the hair. So I'm going to decrease the amount to 0. And as you can see, we still have these fly away hairs. Let me show you before and after. Before and after. So these hairs are controlled by the outlier fraction and the amount fraction, and the scale is like the noise on the hair. As you can see here, we don't have enough strand points to make a smooth hair. We can change that in a bit. For now, I think it looks fine this way, but let me tweak the outlier fraction. Maybe it have too much, and the outlier amount too. Like this. There you go. Okay, now you see that the hair the the hair strand have these angles like this. It's because we don't have enough resolution on the hair. If we go back to well, yeah, if we go back to edit guides, let me remove this. If we go back to edit guides and turn on show vertex ticks, we can even count the guide points that we have here. We have 5, if I'm correct, if I remember correctly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, we have 5 points, and apparently this is not enough. So we can do two things. Maybe we can leave it like this. I mean, from the distance, it looks fine, it looks smooth. We can use the method that I mentioned before, using the generated strand data with the method set with the generation method set to is inside object here, and instead of a sphere, set your camera. So when you get closer like this, the point count or the hair resolution will increase, and the hair will look smoother as you get closer to it. Of course, consuming more computer resources, and it will get the and the resolution of the hair will be set back to lower values as you get the camera away from the hair like this, as you zoom out. That's one way. uh, the other way is uh, letting the renderer set these smoothing values. Some renderers like Redshift. Let me show you. Yeah, it's installed. Some renderers like Redshift have a parameter to for hair tessellation. Let's see. Yeah, there is hair tessellation. You can set this to 4 steps or to 8 steps. It will tessellate the hair and it will make it look smoother. So that's another way. You can let the render smooth out the hair strands. But Ornatrix have its own way to deal with this. So you can add a detail node. This detail node will increase the point count or the vertex count or the hair resolution as you desire. For example, you can set a viewpoint count. The viewpoint count is the amount of points that you will have here in the viewport. Let me show you the before and after. This is before and this is after. The more points you have, the more smooth and the more details you can add to the hair. The freeze, for example, will look much better if I just add the detail below the freeze here. It will the freeze node will have more room to twist the hair and to do its job, basically. So you have the viewpoint count in the detail node. The viewpoint count is the amount of points that you will have in the viewport. So for example, if you want to improve performance in the viewport, you can decrease the point count to 5, right? But then you can have 50 points on the render here in the render point count. So you can just, if you just want to have a preview of the hair in the viewport, you can set the point count very low to have decent performance. But on the rendering you want all the details, so you set the point count as high as you want, basically. So in the viewport, let me set it to 10, and in the render count as well, because it with 5 it looks fine. With 10, just to add some extra details. And you also have here a smoothing amount and a smoothing point count, so the amount of points that will be used for the for the smoothing. So I set this value a bit high like this, and maybe increase the smooth point count to make the curves on the hair more smooth. Something like this, and maybe increase the point count a bit more. And there you go. Yeah. To see the angles, you have to get really close like this. So this is one option. But we can optimize this a little bit more. How? Well, you can set the this detail node is setting the points for all the hairs. So this one have 15 points, but this one here that don't need that many points have 15 points as well, and that's too much for that, because down here we can only see the roots. We don't need that many points, right? We can optimize that using this option, sample by length. This allows us to add to have a minimum and max amount of point, and it will be determined the by the length of the hair, basically. Here we get some intersections when we turn on this option, because it is reducing the point count on the hairs, here too much. But we can just play with the values here, set the minimum points to 5, for example. That was the value that we use for the beginning, from the beginning. So that's it. You can also set a maximum value here. We I would like 15, and that's it. And maybe we can use also the point count channel here with the clump amount that is actually based on the strand length. We can maybe use it to optimize it a little bit more. Maybe it's doing it too much, because it's removing too many points. So we can also tweak the distance. Is also the distance between two points, so we can remove even more points, and so on. Yeah, I think that's it. We can continue with this groom in the next stream. We've been here for almost 3 hours. I think we can take a rest and continue next week. If you have any questions, this is the time. This is the moment. If not, I think I'm going to let it here for now. We learned about hair length, about painting the maps to get a nice fading map on the sides, and we learned about strand channels, about strand groups, about freeze, clump, sub-clumping, about adding details to the hairs, about improving the hairline, yeah, about the hair width. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you find this useful. I'm going to upload this to YouTube so you can watch it later at your own pace. Um, have a nice week. See you. Thank you.